Relationships between men and women typically go through three major stages. The first stage is the initial attraction, where you like the girl and she likes you. This is the beginning phase, where both of you feel a spark and are curious about each other. Next comes the second stage, the relationship, where both of you are genuinely in love with each other. At this point, there's a deeper connection, and you are both emotionally invested. Finally, the third stage is the breakup. This is when the relationship comes to an end, either due to external factors or emotional disconnection. Since I started this series, I've received countless comments, and it's become clear that many of you are facing one of the most common relationship dilemmas. How do you transition from "I don't like you" to "I'm starting to like you and want to know more about you"? In this video, I'll break down exactly what you need to do to make that shift happen and finally get the girl you're interested in. But before we dive into the specifics, let me share an insightful story with you. A young politician in Pennsylvania once found himself facing a political rival who openly opposed him. Instead of confronting him as an enemy, he chose a much more clever strategy to win him over. The politician learned that his rival owned a rare and valuable book. Instead of trying to outdo him or challenge him directly, he wrote a polite letter requesting to borrow the book for a brief period. To his surprise, the rival agreed and sent the book over. After reading it, the young politician returned the book with a sincere thank you note. Here's where things get interesting. What followed was completely unexpected. The rival, who had previously disliked him, suddenly began treating him with kindness. Eventually, this rival became one of his strongest supporters and even a friend. That young politician was none other than Benjamin Franklin, and this clever tactic became known as the Benjamin Franklin effect. Now, what does the Benjamin Franklin effect have to do with dating? It's actually one of the fastest and easiest ways to make any girl like you, no matter how indifferent or even opposed she might feel at first. The secret is simple. Ask her for a favor. Sounds counterintuitive, right? But let me explain why this works so well. When you ask a woman for help, and she agrees, it triggers a subconscious reaction within her brain. She starts to feel more positively toward you. Why? Because when we do something for someone, our minds tell us that we must like them in return for the effort we've put in. It's a psychological phenomenon. Moreover, this technique also taps into another concept known as the consistency bias. The idea behind this is that once a person has done something for you once or twice, they're more likely to continue doing so in the future. This is because they want to maintain a consistent self-image. They want to see themselves as reliable and dependable people. We all have this inherent desire to be seen as helpful and reliable, don't we? So here's a quick tip. Start small. Ask for simple favors like borrowing a pen, asking for help with class notes, or requesting that she pass something along to someone. These small, seemingly insignificant acts can go a long way in shaping her feelings toward you. But here's where things get really interesting. There's a deeper layer to this, which I like to call the investment equation. From a very young age, society teaches us that if we want a girl to like us, we need to shower her with compliments, do favors for her, buy her expensive gifts, and always be kind and considerate. While these things sound nice, they're actually a huge mistake. You need to forget this mindset completely and replace it with this much more powerful rule. A girl will start liking you when she invests in you, not when you do all the investing yourself. Let's think about this like gambling. In gambling, the more money you lose, the harder it is to walk away because you feel a psychological attachment to what you've already invested. Similarly, the more a girl invests emotionally, the more she will like you and become attached to you. On the other hand, if you're the one who is doing all the investing, whether it's buying gifts, doing her favors, or always being available for her, you'll start to feel more attached to her. but she won't feel the same way toward you. This concept doesn't just apply to relationships with women. It applies to all human interactions. The more you invest in someone, the more you'll value them over time, and the more they will seem to matter to you. So here's a crucial piece of advice for all the overly nice guys out there. Just because you're being super nice and helping someone with everything they ask doesn't mean they'll appreciate you the way you hope. In fact, it's the opposite. You'll end up valuing them more than they value you. And that's not the dynamic you want. Now, let's circle back to women. Here's a golden piece of advice. If a girl asks you for a favor, and you eagerly agree to help her, you've essentially just entered the dreaded friend zone. I know this might sound strange or even frustrating, but it's the harsh reality. When a girl asks for something, no matter how small or seemingly innocent, try to find a way to politely refuse. Why? Because when you do a favor for a girl, she will interpret it in one of two ways. Either she'll think you're doing it to gain her approval, which, as I've discussed in my previous videos, is an instant attraction killer, or she will begin seeing you as just a friend, because friends are typically the ones who help each other out. Here's the truth. When a girl is attractive, every guy around her is trying to win her over. So when she asks for something, the guys around her rush to do it. But if you say no, you immediately set yourself apart from the rest. She won't quite understand why you're refusing, and this will spark her curiosity. She'll want to know more about you. She won't see you as just another guy trying to impress her, but as someone who is different, and that's the kind of guy who piques her interest. In conclusion, we've explored the Benjamin Franklin effect, understood the investment equation, and discovered why agreeing to do favors for a girl can backfire. All of this can be summed up in one simple sentence. Shift your mindset from "what can I do to make her like me?" to "what does she need to do to make me like her?" And finally, let me give you one last piece of advice that, when combined with everything else I've shared, will give you the perfect strategy for attracting the girl you want. But before I get into that, let's make sure this video hits 4.000 likes. The last key to success is raising your perceived value. Think of dating as a marketplace. In any marketplace, if something is rare or in short supply, it becomes more valuable. The same principle applies to dating. When your time and attention are scarce, you are perceived as more valuable. In the early stages of dating, never make yourself too available. Imagine a scenario like this. Hey, I had a great time the other night. How about drinks this Thursday? Her, I'd love to, but I'm busy that day. You, how about Friday? Her, sorry, I can't do Friday either. You, Saturday? Her, I'm busy all weekend. You, maybe sometime next week? Her, okay, let me know when you're free. Does this sound familiar? You made yourself too available, and that lowered your value in her eyes. If you don't understand how the dating game works, this situation might frustrate you. It can feel like she's stringing you along, and logically, that makes sense. But here's the truth. Dating isn't logical, it's emotional. By mastering these principles and understanding how to create value, you'll be able to approach women with confidence and start building the kind of attraction that leads to real relationships. Here's the reality. When you suggest a time to meet and get a no, you're unintentionally devaluing your time in comparison to hers. Even if she doesn't consciously realize this on an emotional level, you're still losing points with her. And if you continue to ask repeatedly or keep chasing after her, you only reinforce that your time and attention are easier to obtain than hers. Ultimately, this dynamic makes you seem less valuable in her eyes. I know this isn't fair, it shouldn't be that way. People shouldn't be playing these kinds of games with each other. But, unfortunately, they do. And no amount of wishing for things to be different is going to change human nature. Instead of judging it, the key is to understand it and leverage it in your favor. The strategy here is simple Embrace the concept of scarcity. This means limiting the availability of your time and attention in order to maintain its value. Think about it like this. When you're arranging a date or simply texting back and forth, always get her availability first before revealing yours. That way, you only have to ask once, and you'll already know when she's free, which increases the chances of her saying yes. Here's how you can put this into practice. Instead of asking her, "Are you free this Thursday?" Just ask, "What's your schedule like this week? When are you free to hang out?" This approach puts the ball in her court and lets her tell you when she's available, so you can choose the time that works for you. It's a subtle shift, but it shifts the dynamic in your favor. Let me give you another scenario. Imagine you're talking to a girl at a bar or texting a girl who just gave you her number. One of the best ways to increase your value is by always being the one to end the conversation first. Even if the conversation is going smoothly and you don't want it to end, you should make it a habit to leave first, preferably on a high note. This may sound counterintuitive, especially if you enjoy the conversation and want to keep it going. But the longer you keep talking, the more you'll start to feel like you're not that special. On the other hand, if you end the conversation first, she's left with a sense of mystery and a desire for more. Try saying something like, "I've got dinner with friends, and I hate being that guy on his phone. Let's catch up soon. I'll talk to you later. Don't miss me too much." This playful exit makes her think about you more, and she'll appreciate your time more. It's a tactic that leaves her wanting more and thinking about when she'll hear from you again. Here's the truth. You're a busy guy. You have an exciting life, full of activities, work, and friends who also want your attention. When people have access to you, they should feel privileged. If you're always available, you lose value because your time becomes too easy to get. When there's high demand for your time, it automatically makes you more desirable. Now, let me share the final piece of the puzzle, the perfect formula for making any girl like you. Here's what you need to do. Act like you're already taken. This might sound odd at first, but it works like a charm. Do you know why women find married men more attractive than single men? It's because married men are out of reach. They're no longer available for the taking, and that perceived unavailability actually makes them more desirable. It's the same reason why acting like you're already taken works so well. When you behave as if you're not constantly available, it makes her feel the need to work harder to earn your attention. And when she sees you as a challenge, she'll be far more invested in keeping you interested. The key, however, is to not go overboard. You don't want to make her feel like she has absolutely no chance with you. It's all about striking the right balance. Be slightly elusive, but not so distant that she feels shut out. You want her to chase you, but without completely giving the impression that you're uninterested. So, how exactly do you act like you're already taken? It's not as difficult as it seems, but we'll dive deeper into this concept in another video. For now, remember that the secret is to make her work for your attention, while maintaining the mystery and intrigue that comes with being a little less available. That's all for today. My friend, remember, scarcity, mystery, and a bit of calculated detachment are the keys to getting any girl to chase after you. Stay tuned for more tips on how to master the game of attraction.